Tonight, concerns loom as many African Americans say they don't trust the COVID-19 vaccine. A recent Pew Research Center study finds only 42% of African Americans will get the coronavirus vaccine. So some local pastors are now using the pulpit to encourage African Americans to get the shot. Russell Kinsall is live in Midtown detailing the push to vaccinate. Russell.
Sam, the pastor of Washington Metropolitan AME Zion Church, is one of two pastors I spoke with today. Both are on a clergy advisory committee for the health department to give guidance and assistance in getting the word out about the need for minority communities to get the vaccine. But these pastors are dealing with a lack of faith in the vaccine and the need to get it.
No, I do not. And because I don't plan to get it is because I haven't caught COVID yet.
I wouldn't get the vaccine because we are natural healers of the sun.
Yes, I do, because I work the home health care.
While many are rushing to sign up to get the COVID-19 vaccine, fewer than half of those who are black plan to get it. African American pastors are stepping up to convince their congregations they do need to get vaccinated.
The black community has always looked to the religious community, to the religious leaders, pastors and others, to educate.
Yes, this is the best thing to do for you and for your family.
Pastors are turning to online discussions about the virus. This was a discussion last night involving two doctors and a nurse who are members of the new Northside Missionary Baptist Church.
There is a vaccine and they should not hesitate to avail themselves of it, because the options of not taking it and getting it are just too dramatic and great.
One of the issues pastors plan to address in both videos and from the pulpit is the lingering mistrust caused by the Tuskegee syphilis study back in the 1930s.
Those faith-based leaders here in Detroit say this is a critical time in the COVID-19 pandemic, and now they're telling members to get ready as they hope to bring vaccine shots to the sanctuary.
Benny Napoleon, my high school classmate, gone. People in my church, 40 years of age, gone.
Reverend Horace Sheffield says this COVID-19 pandemic is personal, and the grief for many in his pews is overwhelming.
And many of us have experienced the death of many loved ones and family members.
Through his church ministry in Detroit, just off Grand River Avenue, he's been a longtime ambassador for connecting the congregation with medical necessities. In the coming days and weeks, he says nearly a dozen predominantly black churches in the city plan to go a step further.
There are 10 churches that are part of this project, each of whom are hiring or have hired a full-time health navigator whose sole purpose is to provide testing. And as I said, we're working out a deal right now where all these churches will also be able to provide the vaccination on site as well.
We've got a job to do to reach out and convince people to get vaccinated. One of my other podcasts, my only other podcast, is called The Debrief, and we devoted an entire episode last week to vaccines. And one of the experts we talked to said, in the end, faith leaders, meaning your priest, your pastor, your rabbi, and your imam, may prove as important as any public health official in conveying this message and increasing acceptance. Do you agree?
Absolutely, Lou. You know, the Bible teaches that God created government to protect its citizens. And sure, human nature has corrupted government, but it still does some good things, and this vaccine is a great example of that. We are grateful for President Trump, whose leadership forged a relationship with private business, and they've created this vaccine, which will bring healing to millions of Americans. And I really believe we ought to view these vaccines as early Christmas gifts from God.
Everything good comes from God.
Gifts from God, not some tool of the Antichrist, as some conspiracists are suggesting.
There's no 666, there's no conspiracy. I'll be the first one to get it if I'm allowed to.
And we've heard some pastors are saying to their congregations not to take the vaccine. Very quickly, a thought for those pastors?
Well, some of them I know, but I would say two words: utter stupidity. I mean, this is a gift from God.
So we've got a job to do to reach out and convince people to get vaccinated.
The plan of action, he says, is still in the works. Meanwhile, the state has hired Mario Morrow's consulting firm to convince hesitant African Americans to get vaccinated.
The churches, as you well know, has been a pillar of the African American and brown communities for a long time. They are leaders. They are connected to our citizens.
While the state is not giving vaccines directly to churches, they are spending funds to roll out ads like this one on YouTube.
It's probably on a level of Super Bowl. When you see Super Bowl ads and so forth and so on, we are trying to protect lives.
In an effort to better inform the African American community about the vaccine, Bishop T.D. Jakes brought in big-name experts for an online event called Conversations with America, Understanding the COVID-19 Vaccine.
So the first thing you might want to say to my African American brothers and sisters is that the vaccine that you're going to be taking was developed by an African American woman.
So how do you undo decades of distrust? One strategy is to spread the vaccine gospel.
He suggested using churches and other faith-based groups as a solution.
Is there any thought about getting medical professionals to work through faith-based entities within those local communities where they could go to churches, for instance, and have medical physicians there that could administer the vaccine? Because many of our communities are in food deserts and places like that where they can't get the vaccine.
You could do it by community centers, churches. You mentioned, Bishop, is very important. Faith-based organizations getting involved, but also mobile units to go out into those communities which are not readily accessible.
In the meantime, Jakes says while his conversation provides people with education and knowledge about the shot, he also wishes to offer hope to those affected by the pandemic.
Your priest, your pastor, your rabbi, and your imam conveying this message and increasing acceptance. Do you agree? I totally agree.
I was talking with our UK colleagues just today who were saying the UK is very similar to where we are now in outbreak because each of our countries have that independent spirit, but we don't want to be told what to do. Well, I understand that, but now is the time to do what you're told, to do what you're told, to do what you're told. And I think it really is something that we should be doing right now.
665.
665. Go ahead, sir.
I'm gonna go 666.
There is no 666. There's no conspiracy. I'll be the first one to get it if I'm allowed to.